All right, guys. Week 3 of the zombie apocalypse. We are getting away from the law of sines and law of cosines and getting into trigonometric identities. I've included this sheet, okay, in the notes for this week, and this sheet is just as important as the unit circle. Okay, a whole bunch of stuff going on here. So if you have the opportunity to print it out and keep it handy, it certainly will help. If not, then I don't know if there's really a whole heck of a lot I could do for you other than, well, I mean, if you guys need, I could always print it out if you don't have access to a printer, and you could come up and pick one up. Okay, but there's a whole bunch of laws and identities on here, and most of the ones that we take a look at over this week and probably in the next week easily, okay, can be found on here. Okay, so I know, all my calc kids, okay, they're going to have access to this guy on a regular basis. They're going to have access to this guy on a regular basis. Okay, we keep them real close because they're very helpful as reference tools. Okay, so we get onto these trigonometric identities, okay, and these ones you actually know already, and these guys are actually, okay, on this sheet as well, okay, up here, the tangent identities and the reciprocal identities, okay, are actually on that sheet, okay, just have a different picture of them right here. Okay, so the reciprocal identities, okay, we know that sine and cosecant are reciprocals of each other, cosine and secant are reciprocals of each other, tangent and cotangent are reciprocals of each other. We know all that stuff already. We also know that our quotient identities for tangent and cotangent, tangent is always sine over cosine, cotangent is always cosine over sine. Okay, so these are kind of the things that we're going to be dealing with today, and how these guys come into play, okay, in some of these trigonometric identities. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Okay, this is about as easy as it gets. Okay, we take a look here. Cosecant is 5/2. Find the sine. Okay, well, we know that cosecant and sine are reciprocals of each other. Okay, so if cosecant is 5/2, then the sine just has to be the reciprocal of that. Okay, so we're just going to get 2/5. Okay, or what would that give us? 0.4. Okay, just depending on whether you want fraction form or decimal form. Okay, so let's see this second one. We know what the secant is, and we're looking for the cosine. Well, we know the secant and the cosine are reciprocals of each other. Okay, so cosine would be the reciprocal of the secant. So if I just take the reciprocal here, we're in good shape. Okay, so cosine would have to be -4/7, and I know that that guy is a repeating decimal. Okay, so if I go 4 divided by 7 and round off to the nearest hundredth, we get roughly about -0.57. Okay, and once again, depending on, are you looking for fraction form, are you looking for decimal form? Okay, tangent and cotangent, okay, we know are reciprocals of each other. Okay, so let's see. I don't like, for the cotangent, I don't like going 1 over 1.25, because then obviously I have a fraction with a decimal in it, which of course we don't like. Okay, so why not take a look at maybe taking this guy and putting it in fraction form to begin with? Okay, so let's see. So 1.25 is the same as 1 1/4, and so that guy is the same as 5/4. Okay, so if the tangent is 5/4, then its reciprocal, the cotangent, has to be 4/5, which is the same as 0.8. Okay, so we're in good shape. And again, depending on what you're looking for, fraction form or decimal form. Okay, sine we know, cosecant we're looking for. Okay, again, sine is a decimal, so cosecant would be 1 over that because the reciprocals. And again, I'm kind of in the same shape as I was here. Okay, so why not take this guy and put it in fraction form? So negative 748 over, that would be 10, 100, 1,000. And that is not a reduced fraction, so you got to reduce, and I don't know, at the very least, they're both divisible by 4. It might be more than that. I'll use my calculator to reduce it. So 748 ABC, I did not want that, 1,000. And it looks like I get negative 187 over 250. Okay, so the cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine. So to find the cosecant, I just take the reciprocal of this fraction right here. So I get a negative 250 over 187. And something tells me that's going to be an ugly looking decimal. So we'll check it out, 250 divided by 187. Yeah, round it off to the nearest hundredth. We're getting negative 1.34. Okay, so just applying what we know about reciprocal functions, that's about as easy as it gets there. Okay, so those are real simple, no big deal. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Okay, let's see. This might get a little bit tougher because notice I'm taking a look at like the first one and I'm going to scan down and see what's going on. Well, we have cotangent and sine. Okay, and I'm looking for cosine. So I know the cotangent is cosine over sine, so I should be able to set up a proportion and solve for that, okay? Let's see, I have cosecant, secant, and tangent. All right, now tangent is sine over cosine. This guy is the reciprocal of sine, and that guy is the reciprocal of the cosine, okay? So once again, I should be able to use a proportion to solve for what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's see, I'm looking for cotangent. Cotangent is cosine over sine. Okay, so this would be the reciprocal of cosine. And I have the sine, okay. And then here, let's see, I'm looking for sine, and I have cotangent and secant. Well, we know cotangent is cosine over sine. So again, I should be able to use a proportion to do all these. And really what it's coming back down to is on this page, okay, using these guys on the bottom, the quotient identities, okay, where we know tangent is sine over cosine and cotangent is cosine over sine. Okay, so let's take a look at this stuff. Let's see what we got going on. Okay. All right, so let's see. That top one, I know I have to use the fact that cosine of theta, cotangent of theta, not cosine, cotangent of theta is equal to cosine of theta over sine of theta, okay? And it looks like I should be able to substitute this guy in and this guy in and solve for cosine. Okay, so cotangent is 2 radical 5 over 25, okay? And cosine is something I'm looking for, okay? My cosine of theta, and that is all over sine of theta, which is radical 5 over 3, okay? So why not just take my cross products and solve for cosine of theta? Okay, so if we multiply on this cross product, okay, I'm going to get 25 times the cosine of theta. And if I multiply on this diagonal, or that cross product, notice I'm going to get 2 radical 5 times radical 5 over 3. Okay, so I get 25 cosine of theta equals, well, let's see, that radical 5 times radical 5 is 5, so I get 2 times 5, which is 10 over 3. and then I just divide by 25. Okay, so the cosine of theta is 10/3 divided by 25. Well, that would be the same as 10/3 times 1/25. And then I divide by 5, so that gives me a 2. Divide by 5, that gives me a 5. So the cosine ends up being 2/15. Okay, so this guy is just 2/15. Okay, we're good there. Okay, let's see what we got going on this next guy. All right. Okay, so I have cosecant and I have secant, and I'm looking for tangent. Okay, so let's see. Well, we know tangent of theta is equal to sine of theta over cosine of theta. Okay. And I'm looking for tangent. That's what I'm looking for here. Tangent of theta equals, let's see. Well, they give me cosecant, okay, but I'm looking for sine. So sine is the reciprocal of cosecant. So the sine would have to be 7/25. And let's see, cosine. Well, secant and cosine are reciprocals of each other. So if the secant is 25/24, then the cosine has to be the reciprocal of that. 24/25. Okay, so it looks like my tangent of theta is going to be the numerator times the reciprocal of the denominator. So 7/25 times 25/24. And notice the 25s cancel on the diagonal, and we're just left with 7/24. Okay. So 7/24. All right, we're good there. So we got those two guys out of the way. Let's get another piece of paper. All right, let's move this up a little bit. Okay, so let's see what we got going on here. I know something about sine and secant, and I'm looking for cotangent. Okay, so let's see. We know the cotangent of theta is equal to cosine of theta over sine of theta, and I'm looking for cotangent. Okay, so let's see. Well, I know what the sine is. Okay, the sine is 3 radical 2 over 4, so I can put that down below, 3 radical 2 over 4. Okay, I want cosine. Now, cosine is the reciprocal of the secant. So if I take the reciprocal here, I can put that up in my numerator. So that'd be 2 over radical 6. Okay, so let's see. Obviously an ugly looking fraction, so why not take the numerator times the reciprocal of the denominator? So that would be 2 over radical 6 times 4 over 3 radical 2. And let's see. Notice there is nothing that I could cancel off on the diagonals. Okay, so we multiply across and we have 8 over 3 radical 12. All right, now I'm going to put that in simplest radical form. Okay, so let's see, I've got the 8 up above. And let's see, this guy right here is 2 radical 3. Okay, so multiplying by the 3, I'm going to get 6 radical 3. Okay, now notice I can reduce the 8 and the 6 now, divide them both by 2, so I get 4 over 3 radical 3, and then I rationalize. Okay, so that's going to give me 4 radical 3 all over 3 times 3, which would be 9. Okay, all right, so we're good. So we get 4 radical 3 all over 9. And we're in good shape. Okay, last one here. Let's see what we got going on. Let's move this up a little bit. Okay, so let's see. I know the cotangent. I know the secant, which is the reciprocal of cosine, and I'm looking for the sine. Okay, so I'm going to have to use the fact that cotangent of theta is equal to cosine of theta over sine of theta. Okay, so cotangent is radical 10 over 8. Okay, sine I'm looking for, that's my unknown. Okay, I need cosine. Okay, cosine is the reciprocal of secant, so if I take the reciprocal of 9/5, I can use that, so 5/9. Okay, and then we just use our cross products. Okay, so I take this cross product right here, okay, and I get radical 10 times the sine of theta equals, and I take this cross product right here, and that would give me 40 over 9. Okay, and then we divide both sides by radical 10. Okay, so my sine of theta equals 40 over 9 radical 10. Okay, and then I'm going to have to rationalize. Okay, so we get 40 radical 10 all over 9 times 10, or 90, and then I reduce, divide the 40 and the 90 both by 10, so I'm going to get 4 radical 10 all over 9. And I got what I'm looking for, 4 radical 10 all over 9. Okay, so we're in good shape there. Relatively easy for the first day, and I will get some more videos up this week, obviously. I'll be grading last week's quiz. I'll start grading it today and get the rest of them graded tomorrow. So that'll be posted sometime tomorrow. And we'll just keep moving forward. You guys stay safe out there. Miss all of you.